Greetings and welcome to A Contemplative Reader, where together we will explore the mysterious, the otherworldly, the mystical, and the spiritual in various forms of literature. My name is Jay. Thank you for watching this brief mid-Lent reading update. As I mentioned in my TBR for Lent, I will measure time in this channel by seasons of the church year. First and foremost, since I last updated you on my reading plans, I did indeed finish The Way of Edan by Philip Chase. Because of my travel schedule and work schedule, I had to listen to several of the last chapters via audiobook recorded by Alan from the Library of Alexandria. So I need to go back and reread several of those chapters so I can take good notes on them, because I am noting many allusions to various forms of spirituality and religion in this work, which I want to cover in a later review. For example, I am finding allusions to Christianity, to Eastern religion, such as Buddhism and Hinduism, allusions to Native American spirituality, and of course, various mythology. It's been an engaging, really enjoyable read, and I'm looking forward to delving into it deeper in a more thorough review. Just an example of some things that I found particularly interesting from a religious or spiritual perspective were descriptions of some of the religious rites that are found within the book. For example, there is just a gorgeous, haunting description of a funeral rite for a dwerg, this group of people that Dayraven and Imhar, the two main protagonists of the book, encounter during their travels. Followed up shortly after that by a description of a rite of welcoming of a newborn, which again is quite beautiful. So I think back to the many times in my career as a pastor where I've performed baptisms and funerals, and so how important those rites are for families and for cultures and societies, and how beautifully Dr. Chase describes those rites in his book. So I'll go more in depth in that in my later review. Just a note about the audiobook too, since I did listen to a lot of it in my completion of the book. It really is an amazing audiobook. Once you get past the fact that you're listening to Alan from the Library of Alexandria and you're kind of wondering when he's going to go off on a rant at some point about whatever's on his mind that day, it's really a beautiful capturing of the various voices in the book. I don't think I've ever listened to an audiobook where the voices and the accents are more distinct than in this particular audiobook. Alan really loses himself into these characters, and it's really, really engaging. And I was riveted to it during my drives over the past several days, listening to that audiobook. So I highly encourage you to pick that up if you have an extra Audible credit, or I think normally it's not that expensive just to pay for it as well on Audible. So I highly recommend that you pick that up. So more to come on The Way of Edan to come. What else have I been reading during this Lenten season so far? Again, we're about halfway through the Lenten season. I did start reading Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky, a science fiction epic, which is told in the first person about an ecologist who gets in trouble with the authorities and ends up with a group of other people convicted of various alleged crimes, exiled into a distant prison planet, which is filled with all kinds of wonders and mysteries. It's really a visceral story told, again, from that first-person perspective of this poor man who is exiled to the planet. I'm about 60 or 70 pages into it. Hope to finish that up soon and get a more thorough review analysis of it as well. I also have been making my way through the short story collection by Wolfe, The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories and Other Stories. I put up a review of the short story Alien Stones on my channel. This interesting story about an encounter with a mysterious, seemingly alien vessel, which is gargantuan, which had obvious influences on later Star Trek stories, as I cover in my review. And in typical Wolfe fashion, different levels of meaning within the story, different themes going on, which you can unpack and delve into for a lot longer than it might ordinarily take to when you think about a 30-page short story. Also been making my way through H.P. Lovecraft, a short story collection from Penguin Classics, The Call of Cthulhu and Other Weird Stories. I have YouTube short reviews of Dagon and Statement of Randolph Carter put up already. There'll be more to come there. Again, these are 6-7 page short stories by Lovecraft, which evoke cosmic horror imagery in its finest. The language is sometimes dated. These stories are 100 years old now, but I found them entertaining and a good way to get into cosmic horror. Speaking of cosmic horror, I did read a sample of the book Discovery, which is not yet published, by the Minton family. And I just read the first few pages of it, but already I can see the influence of Lovecraft and cosmic horror through images such as this. I'll just read this passage for you. Mountains of calcified sea skeletons latching onto an underwater volcanic peak, then latching upon each other, layer upon layer, eon after eon, until the cadaverous mass rises from the ocean. This is a scene millions of years in the making. But then, in just the very next page, it seems like there are literally laugh-out-loud moments, such as these sentences. The man stomps across the sandbar. Trillions of skeletons crunch under the soles of his Gucci boat shoes. So it's not just pure Lovecraftian imagery. There is some very humorous moments, some of which I won't read to you as a pastor. Lots of colorful language, as they might say, but engaging and enjoyable nevertheless. I've also been reading Attack on Titan. My first attempt into reading manga. Once I got used to reading from right to left, I have had a good time with this, although Attack on Titan is definitely a picture of a bleak world far off into the future. And so it's not necessarily a happy manga story, but I'm enjoying it nevertheless. It's been a good initial foray into the world of manga. And I'll have a video on that in the future with my son Jonathan, who is quite a fan of manga, and he'll be helping me get into that world. Slowly but surely, also making my way through the Kalevala, the epic of the Finnish people. Beautiful story, which had influences on Tolkien and other fantasy writers. What is next that I'll be reading? Again, we're about the halfway point through Lent, so I've got a few weeks left. I'll get through a few more things. Then I'll be going into the Easter season there later on in April. Hope to get through The Black Cauldron by Lloyd Alexander, the second book in the Chronicles of Prydain, classic fantasy series told from the vantage point of Welsh or Celtic mythology. Of course, I will make my way into the next volume of the Edan trilogy, The Prophet of Edan by Philip Chase. Looking forward to continuing that story. And then I have a choice to make. As you can obviously figure it out, I'm a big fan of Gene Wolfe. I did read the first book in the Book of the New Sun last year and want to go deeper into it this year after a reread of the first book of the Book of the New Sun. But a friend of the channel, Samwise, recommended to me another book by Gene Wolfe called Pirate Freedom. And this is only about 300 pages. So I thought maybe before going into Book of the New Sun, I will take a look at this book. It sounds like an interesting story about pirates and priests and time travel and typically weird Wolfian material. Also, will continue to make my way through Lovecraft and the Gene Wolfe short story collection, The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories. So, I look forward to reading these works over the next few weeks as we wrap up the Lenten season and move into Easter, and look for more videos to come about these books. Thank you for watching. Peace be with you.